IT leaders have been forced to make changes really on a dime, whether it comes to their budget or their workforce, how employees are working from home now, and the setup involved in that. Kevin Nix is the CEO of Hitachi ID. Kevin, thanks for being with me. I know you guys just recently put out the results of a survey talking to IT leaders and about the changes that have had to be made, how this all feels, how they're dealing with it in their budget. What were some of the key findings that you guys stumbled upon here?
Yeah, I think the two findings that weren't, should not have been a surprise to anyone is the fact that as the work methods that employees are taking right now, moving from going into the office, commuting to the office, to working from home or a remote location, there was a very strong shift where 89% of the focus was going to be focused on cybersecurity spend, with another 82% focused on remote enablement. And that makes a ton of sense, because if you're having an issue in your office, you would call someone up or go down to the third floor to the IT help desk, and there would be someone, with a smile there to help you. That's all gone. Right now, you have to be self-sufficient. And so a lot of the data that we got out of the Pulse survey really mapped into what we sort of suspected as we started the survey.
And you guys, we were talking about this earlier, Kevin. This was a cross section of industries that you talked to IT leaders, within SMBs, enterprise, all different sizes here. Talk a little bit about how you went about gathering the information, and then we'll talk a little bit further about what this means for IT in the future.
You bet. So one of the things we wanted to do is get a pretty clean sample size. So we selected businesses ranging from large-scale enterprise to SMB, and we also wanted to be smart about going cross-industry. We didn't want to bias what the data might give us or show us if we just focused on one or two key industries. So as much as possible, we tried to get a broad cut across many different industries and different sizes of business.
And tell me about, as far as some of these CIOs, CTOs that you guys, that participated in this survey, have their priorities really changed? I mean, cybersecurity is obviously of the utmost importance, or has been for many. But for some of these companies that you had participate, I mean, they're not all heavy into tech. I mean, there are still plenty of companies that haven't really digitally evolved yet. So they've had to do things basically overnight.
Absolutely right. I mean, I think if you look at it, I live in Silicon Valley, and so high tech, you can get really comfortable where everyone has a laptop. You already have some level of work at home infrastructure laid out for you. But there are many businesses where that is not the case. You can pick heavy manufacturing as one example, and the list goes on and on. And for those businesses, they had to literally turn on a dime and have to really rethink and make very quick changes into their security strategy and their IT landscape to be able to adapt. And I have to say, at least what we've seen talking to our customers across many different industries, they're doing a really good job.
And what did the survey, what did it reveal, or did it, in terms of how these companies feel like communication with their employees will change? Was that addressed at all?
A little bit, but honestly, I think the key thing that we were looking for as part of the survey is to basically say, okay, what has changed? And what we saw that really has changed and accelerated is this whole concept of identity and access management. So simply put, that is understanding your roles and responsibilities within a company and giving you the appropriate privilege and access to these different systems. And so all of a sudden, as you've got a workforce that's changing from a physical landscape, you now have employees who perhaps needed to access systems they've never accessed before. And part of that is you want to be able to do that securely. So a big part of the approach in identity and access management is intelligence. When a request is made for additional access to systems, the systems should be smart enough to be able to vet and validate that that is a good decision and should go through.
And if you had to just kind of summarize, Kevin, for us, you know, what does all of this and the data you collected, what does it mean for, say, 6 months down the road? How are things going to look? Obviously, our world's been turned upside down, right? So nothing is normal anymore, and things are always, they're going to look different as we continue to progress through this. But what does it look like it will be, say, 6 months to a year from now? How are things changing?
You know, that's a great question. I'll try to give you my best answer to that, which is, you know, first of all, budgets are, there might be some shifting in budgets, some slight increases, but obviously companies that are under pressure, under financial pressure, you know, IT budget is definitely going to have some impact associated with that. I do believe that from a cybersecurity and remote access standpoint, I would love to say that 3 months from now, this isn't going to be a problem or issue. I would love to say that. I think everyone would. I think it is uncertain how fast these changes are going to happen. I know many of my customers that I speak with, they're planning for a longer haul moving into late 2020 and early 2021. So I think in some ways, the challenges and problems will remain the same. I think companies will just get better at solving these problems because they've just had more runway, more time to actually address this changing landscape.
And do you, finally here, Kevin, do you feel like again, when we talk about more technology focused or progressive companies, that's one thing, but for some of these that, again, digital transformation has been something they're slow to go through and to come around to, how much do you think this, you know, the COVID-19, the pandemic here has changed the placement of IT within those companies? I mean, are these CIOs or just the IT department going to be looked at differently, have a different seat at the table, I guess, if you will?
I think it will. I mean, you know, digital transformation is just a challenging topic, and different companies are farther in their journey right down digital transformation road. But what I do see, and I think part of the survey shows part of this, and part of this is, again, just living in the Valley, is the whole concept of how people are going to work is transforming, right? I mean, there are many large companies here in the Valley that are talking about work from home, maybe the new normal. And as soon as you say, and then there's other interesting side effects, which is for those companies that have data centers, and many companies have data centers, you now have to have safe protocols for how people are going to access the building, scheduling around how many people can be inside the building to be able to safely and securely get into their data center and do his or her job. So I see a lot of those trends not going away anytime soon. I think we're, you know, it's hard to predict the future, but what I can say, and what I think the survey does show, is that security is going to be top of mind for some period of time.
Yeah, I'd say definitely. That is something that we'll be hearing and talking about a lot, Kevin. Well, I really appreciate you being with us here today. As we know, there's so much uncertainty, and change is the one thing we know we just have to be okay with at this point.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate it.
Well, for much more, of course, on this survey, the results from that, you can check that out at Tech Republic, and we really appreciate all of you watching us here today.